What's up, tennis fans? Sleepy Picks here. So excited to talk to you about our French Open preview. We're going to go through some of the top seeds and tell you where we think they're going to finish in the tournament. We'll talk about who we think the winner is going to be and definitely look at potentially some sleeper picks here. Let's get started. All right, guys. So I'm lucky to be joined by Panda and the Walk On, both with great records here on the cast. We're going to talk about Carlos Alcaraz first. Obviously, we know wrist injury, extremely tough result here to not see him in the French Open. Played Vertanen in Barcelona. The picture here is him getting that assistance here on the wrist. Didn't think it was much of anything. Had a scan the next day, and turns out it was much more serious than expected. So he will not be participating in any of the remaining clay court tournaments. And I just want to talk quickly about kind of our outlook. And guys, we've seen before, wrist injuries have really derailed a lot of big time careers. Nishikori, Del Potro, team. So is this something that's going to be a little bit more serious, something that's going to plague him for his whole career? Or are we going to expect him to be right back in the saddle for Wimbledon? Panda, I'm going to go to you first. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think Alcaraz is definitely someone we've seen over the years. He's been very prone to injury. Unlike this Sinner who has stayed a little bit steadier and has been able to play like all those matches except for obviously his ban at the beginning of last year. I do think he's going to be able to come back fairly quickly and he's going to be feeling the courts pretty well. I think his team is taking this opportunity to take all this time off just so that he's 100% ready for the rest of the season. I think they don't want to rush anything, even though, it'd be great for him to pick up those points over the French Open. But I think it'll be a fine recovery for him, and I'm not too worried about his performance at the end of the season.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm expecting the same thing. I think he's going to have a pretty strong summer. I think he's going to come out very motivated. Sitting on the sidelines, watching Sinner potentially win a French Open. We'll talk about that in a second. I think that's really going to motivate him, and especially having lost to Sinner at Wimbledon, he could come back with fire in his belly to get there. Walk on. How are you feeling about this injury?
Um, I'm a little nervous, just like you mentioned a little earlier about all those stars, former stars that have suffered from wrist injuries and the real impact it's had on their careers. And I'm also with you, Panda, on how I think it's smart that his team's letting him take all the time off. I know missing a slam is a big deal, but we're talking about someone here with the success he's had early in his career that could potentially be one of the best of all time. I don't think missing one slam is going to be the end of the world for him. So I think he's going to come back with kind of a fire under him, and he's gonna come out pretty strong.
Yeah, and this definitely opens up at least one side of the draw for some potential, maybe new names, maybe some old names like Novak and Zverev. We're going to talk about all those. Let's take a look at Jannik Sinner. All right, guys, so the first player we're going to talk about here is the number one ranked player in the world, Jannik Sinner. He's coming in having won Monte Carlo in the finals of Madrid, playing Zverev tomorrow. Obviously, he's playing extremely good clay court tennis. He's only lost 2 sets, I believe, on the clay so far, and had that devastating loss, match points up against Carlos Alcaraz last year. And, guys, for me, my perspective of this, obviously, I'm going to lean towards Sinner to win this tournament. But for me, I think the competitor that Jannik Sinner is, I think he wants to see Carlos Alcaraz in the draw. I think he wants to beat him on the clay. He wants to avenge that loss. I think if he wins this French, it doesn't feel as sweet as it would winning one over Carlos Alcaraz. Now, obviously, winning your first French Open is going to be a huge accomplishment for you. You look at Sinner's results here in the French in the past, finals in 2025, lost to Carlos in 5. Semifinals, lost to Carlos in 2024. That 5-setter against Altmaier in the second round in 2023 where he was cramping. Lost to Rublev where he had to retire in the fourth round of 22. and then 2 losses to Nadal in straight sets in 21 and 20. Hasn't been a very tough, like Sinner's been a tough out here in this tournament when he's healthy. We talked about Altmaier, he was cramping. Rublev, he had an injury, had to retire. But when he's healthy, he's not going out to anybody but the top clay quarters here. So it's going to take a superhuman effort from any of these guys here. Panda, I'm going to start with you. How do we see Jannik Sinner panning out in this tournament?
Yeah, I think Sinner's looking really good. I saw that his team added a bunch of RPMs to his forehand over in the off season. I know he was saying at the end of the 2025 season he might have some weird results here and there because he really wanted to work on that forehand, give himself a little more variety, a lot more shape coming into that clay season. I think he's looking super dangerous. I really don't see, if Alcaraz is out, I don't see anyone beating him. Maybe, Novak can pull something out if he faces him, but he's looking pretty red hot right now.
Yeah, and this is obviously the tournament that Sinner has had circled all year. Now you have Alcaraz out, but him and his team have been working hard to get this win. You got Darren Cahill coming back for another year here. I think they really want to get this one done here. The walk on, how are you feeling about Jannik Sinner's chances at the French Open?
Beyond confident that he's just going to kind of run through the field. We've seen through the last clay tournaments. I mean, Madrid going on right now, and at the time we're recording, he plays Zverev in the final tomorrow, but he's looked pretty untouchable so far. I mean, Feast bringing some decent level, and Sinner really dispatching him there. I don't see him falling to anyone besides maybe a shocker upset by a Zverev or a Novak, and I think he's going to kind of work his way through the field pretty easily.
How about do we see him going through here maybe without dropping a set in this tournament?
I was thinking about mentioning that. I think there's a good chance. I mean, as good as ever without Alcaraz there to stop him.
And Sinner's got some of the top serving numbers as well. He's always putting a lot of pressure on the service games of his opponents. A lot of trouble there for those guys. Panda, how do you feel about Sinner's chances to go and run through this tournament without dropping a set?
Yeah, I think it's very high. We saw that the only set he dropped in Madrid so far is the one set to Bonzi. Brought in a breaker. Bonzi played some pretty flashy tennis in that breaker, and obviously you can't really do much about that. I see something like that happening in the French maybe, but there is a very good chance that he goes in without dropping a set.
Yeah, and I mean, especially important to note too, the clay is going to be a little bit slower in Roland Garros. You got the clay in Madrid, you got the altitude, it's a little bit faster, so some of these guys might be able to come out and hit some flashy shots against Sinner, but I think when he has time to set up, that forehand is just so lethal. Let's take a look at our next player, Alexander Zverev. Next player we're going to look at here is Alexander Zverev, and guys, prime opportunity here for Zverev. With Alcaraz out, he's going to be the number 2 seed here. He's going to have his own side of the draw. Will not face Sinner until the finals. Last year, a tough result for him, a 4-set loss to Djokovic. I like what I've been seeing from Zverev lately. We talked a little bit about in the Madrid going into the finals. I feel like he's starting to peak now. He's playing some better clay court tennis. Was not really impressed with what we got from him in Munich, what we got from him in Monte Carlo, but now it's starting to really click here for Zverev. I think this might be a prime opportunity for him to get out to the final and force some issues. Obviously, we know Sinner might be a little bit nervous when we get into the final stages of this Grand Slam. The walk-on, I'm going to go to you first this time. How do we feel like Alexander Zverev is going to fare here at the French?
I think it'll be really interesting. I mean, we know the book on Zverev. He has the game to beat everyone else in the world besides Alcaraz and Djokovic right now. But in those big moments when he's playing those two guys, can he step up, and then Sinner, of course, those three guys, can he step up and be aggressive and take the tennis to them? I mean, we saw that a little bit in I think 22 when he played Rafa, and he had that unfortunate injury, and that's the most aggressive tennis I've seen him play.
Yes.
And look at the result. He was taking it to a Rafa that was still near the peak of his power. He was playing really well. Now, can he find that again is a different question. I mean, I would hope so. I'd like to see that happen. I think he could find his way through this draw and then hopefully just have some matches to build some confidence, not have a huge test with Alcaraz being out. And then, I mean, he has to be one of them. He's got to beat Sinner now. So let's see.
Yeah, and looking at the results for Zverev, one final in 2024 that lost to Alcaraz in the finals. He's got three semifinals in 21, 22, and 23, and three quarterfinals in 18, 19, and 25. He does make it deep in this tournament. Obviously, guys, like I know a lot of you guys have fantasy teams. He might be a decent pick. He's going to be a lot of points, though, for you. And it might be a little bit of high risk. Probably want to look at the draw before you decide to put him on your fantasy team. But he will have a draw without Sinner in it. So that does bode well for him there. Panda, how do we feel about Alexander Zverev's chances here?
Yeah, I think Zverev has a great opportunity here to make a deep run in the Slam. He's he's the only guy on that side of the draw that really has the game to rival Sinner. I think. Yeah, he's got a good shot at making the final, and he should really take advantage of this. Yeah, I think right now he's playing some really good tennis. In Madrid, I think his serve is looking really good. He's looked like almost impossible to break on these courts, moving a little bit quicker. I was able to see the 2024 final live, and it was just the classic Zverev move where he's up 2-1, he's in the right position to win this Slam final, and of course lets Alcaraz back in, starts getting a little tight, forehand starts getting a little shaky, and loses those last two sets, 1 and 2. I think that'll be the key, is just mentally getting over the finish line. Is he going to be going for that forehand, or is he going to cop out and let Sinner just tackle that? But yeah, I think it's very exciting, and he's got a good shot at it. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we've talked about too with Zverev, especially here in Madrid. The forehand looks a lot better against Blockx. He was really connecting with a lot of those shots as well. The serving numbers have increased drastically as well for him so far, and the nerves are a big factor here for Zverev. We talk about against Sinner and Alcaraz, the way that they're able to return the ball and kind of neutralize that serve +1 from Zverev. That makes it a little bit harder. He's got to play some longer points, but I do feel a little bit promising because seeing his movement against Alexander Blockx was very strong, and I think if he can move that way confidently, we'll see how he does tomorrow in the finals of Madrid. But I definitely think if he can find some of that confident movement play and win some of these longer points, I think he's definitely got a fighting chance to beat anyone in this tournament. Let's move on to the next player. Our next player that we're going to talk about is Novak Djokovic, and we have not seen him since that final appearance in Australia. We're not sure what to expect from him here, but we know the potential of Novak Djokovic winning in 2016, winning in 2021, winning in 2023. It's a little bit hard for us to determine how he's going to do here, and obviously the draw is going to be a big factor for him as well. I think he's going to want to draw where he can kind of groove himself into the tournament. And we know, as we're going to talk about in a second, there are going to be a lot of dangerous floaters that are going to be unseeded here. And I think if Novak plays one of them early, it might be a tricky test for him. For me, guys, I think we're going to see a strong, motivated Novak Djokovic. A semifinal appearance wouldn't surprise me. A quarterfinal appearance wouldn't surprise me. Last year, he was able to make it out to the semis, losing to Sinner in straight sets, but still playing strong tennis and not really being able to be pushed too much going into that all straight sets until that 4-set win over Zverev, and then a straight set loss to Sinner. Panda, I'm going to go to you first. What can we expect from Novak Djokovic?
Yeah, I mean, you can never really count him out. He's so good. He was able to beat Sinner in 5 sets at Australia. I don't really think it's that big of a deal that he's not playing too many matches. I know he's going to be training, and does Novak really need more match experience at this point? I think the real key for him to making a deep run at this tournament and even potentially winning it is going to be how easy are those first couple rounds. How fresh is he going to be coming into the quarterfinal, semifinal, final when guys are going to start pushing him a little bit harder. So I think for him it's going to be keeping very fresh getting those three setters, dispatched really easily. And like you said, the draw is going to be huge, to see if he makes a deep run here.
And the last time that Novak Djokovic hasn't made it past the quarterfinals in the French Open was in 2009, where he had a third round loss to Kohlschreiber. So that just shows you guys how good he has been here in this tournament. We're gonna probably get a look at him in Rome. I believe he's still signed up to play there. So we'll probably get a look at him, and we'll be able to maybe give you a little bit more of a determination there. The walk-on, what can we expect from Novak Djokovic?
Well, first of all, that's an insane stat. That's ridiculous. So Novak-like, and I'm with Panda on this. I think none of these guys in the first, second, third round have a game plan besides just try and draw Novak into a war, a war. I mean, a physical battle. That's, I think, going to be the game plan for most people here. And so can Novak on clay, where the points are going to be longer, it won't be Wimbledon, it won't be hardcore, we can shorten up the points. Like, he's going to have to grind some of these points out. Can his body hold up? I mean, that's been the concern for the past couple tournaments, and it's probably not getting easier for him.
Yeah, and honestly, that's kind of what we saw in Australia. Comes out, plays a very good first set against Carlos, but then the body really does give out a little bit. And Novak has talked about in the offseason trying to learn to shorten these points a little bit. We've seen some serve and volleys. We've seen some bigger returns. We've seen him try to get a hold of the forehand a little bit more there and control the court. So we might see that a little bit at the French, but I think there's definitely a chance that we're going to see him play a lot of longer rallies, and that could spell some trouble for Novak Djokovic. Let's take a look at the next player. Next player we're going to talk about is Felix Auger-Aliassime. He is the 5th ranked player. He could be the 4th seed. Him and Shelton only separated by, I believe it's like 20 points. So we're going to do him and Shelton to see whoever kind of takes over that quarter as the 4th seed. The farthest Felix has made it is the 4th round at the French Open in 2022 and 2024. Last year, a tough loss to Arnaldi in 5 sets after being up 2 sets to love. For me, guys, I feel like Felix is playing better tennis. I like the way that we're seeing the heavy topspin forehand more so than we're used to. I feel like he used to just come out and hit some bigger, flatter shots and try to kind of like dominate the way that you would see like a Soderling or a Del Potro on the clay. And that's not really a way to win consistently. For him, he's starting to grind out some points here that I kind of like. Obviously hasn't really gotten any big signature wins on the clay just yet. Got that win over Casper Ruud, but it was by retirement. Ruud pulling out in the second set. The walk-on, I'm going to go to you first here with Felix. Guys, for me, I don't see Felix making it past the 3rd round. If he is the 4th seed, this is going to be a wide open quarter for anyone to take advantage of. But the walk-on, tell me where you see Felix going in this tournament.
I'll do my best to avoid sounding like I have a personal problem with Felix, but this is the weakest 4 seed I've seen in a while at a slam. I mean, this is the shakiest player in the top 10 right now.
Yeah.
Besides, I mean, maybe Bublik's sitting at 11, but like, Felix, I'm with you. I don't think there's any chance he makes it past the 3rd or 4th round. He's no way he's making a seed. I think he could go out to someone 60, 70 in the world, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a tough path for him. Now we're talking 3 out of 5 sets. We saw him kind of have a little bit of a collapse against Arnaldi last year, 6-2 in that 5th set. With the serve and the forehand of Felix, a 6-2 on any surface is a little bit surprising, considering where Arnaldi was last year. Panda, I'm going to go to you now. What do we see Felix doing in this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's really a toss-up here. He has played some good tennis here in the past, and he has been playing a little bit better, I will admit. That backhand's looking a lot more solid, a lot heavier, and his forehand seems to be grooving in a lot better than last year. He's proven himself on this surface, going the distance with Rafa a few years ago with that battle 5-setter that, could have gone either way, honestly. He had his chances. So I agree with what the walk-on said. He could lose in the first round to someone 70 in the world. I can also see him making, a semifinal appearance here.
Yeah, and I'm especially with his game, for sure there are chances that he can kind of get a little bit hot with the forehand, with the serve, and start to take advantage of this. Panda did mention that Nadal five-setter. That was an epic match there. That's probably the best we've seen from Felix. For me, I'm gonna say third round, maybe fourth round. If he makes it to the second week, I would be shocked. But we'll see. Hopefully, Felix can prove us wrong. Let's move on to the next player. Right, the next player we're going to talk about is Ben Shelton, and the reason we've added him a little bit is because he could potentially get the fourth seed here in this draw. So we want to be cautious here. It could be him or Felix, depending on how they do in Rome. Shelton coming off that nice Munich win and then having a tough loss in Madrid. He did make it out to the fourth round, losing to Carlos Alcaraz in 4 sets. So he has progressively gotten better at the French. A first round loss in 2023 to Sonego, a third round loss to Auger-Aliassime in straight sets, really didn't look that great in that match, and then a fourth round loss to Carlos, who went on to win the entire tournament. Obviously, if you give him a fourth seed and you give him his own quarter, maybe he's got a better chance to get out to a potential quarterfinal or semifinal to make a second week. Looking at the Shelton that we saw in Munich, I really liked the way that he played, so gritty on the clay and able to just play so many clutch points when it really mattered. I mean, especially that match against Blockx. We know how well Blockx has been doing this clay season, and Shelton able to beat him in straight sets. And there were a lot of chances that Blockx had in the breaker, a chance to win the second set, and Shelton just shutting him down there. Shelton also able to beat Cobolli in the finals of Munich. This to me, I think maybe he's starting to figure the clay out a little bit. I was a little bit worried in Houston. He lost to Toronto, I believe, and that was a little bit of a puzzling result for me. But now we're seeing him kind of pick it up a little bit. That tough loss to Prismic, guys. Again, if you're able to watch the Madrid highlights, watch that Prismic and Shelton match. That was phenomenal shot making from both guys. I thought Shelton was going to be a little bit tired going into that match, but we really didn't see that, and he's just extremely motivated. We'll see how he does in Rome, but I could see this potentially being a deep run if Shelton can get that fourth seed. The walk-on, I'm going to go to you again. How are we feeling about Shelton's chances in this draw?
I feel pretty decent. I think year by year he's improving.
Yeah.
He's figuring out the different surfaces, and I think he's gonna be a threat pretty soon on all surfaces. And so maybe this could be the year. He has an open draw. He's playing pretty well so far. He's serving well, and he's not getting super exposed on the backhand. He's using the forehand well. I think it's a good opportunity. I'd love to see an American make another run at the French Open.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I definitely agree with the walk on. That Shelton forehand can be lethal on the clay. If you can use that lefty spin and kick it off the court, we saw that a little bit in Munich, and just kind of go out to that side and really force the players to defend on their backhand side. It makes it very difficult. Panda, I'm going to go to you next. How are we feeling about Shelton's chances in this draw?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it depends on his draw. He has the chance to make a quarterfinal appearance here, I think. And I love how he's moving around his backhand, really finding that forehand a lot better on the clay. I think it's with a little bit of a slower surface, he can kind of hide that weakness a little bit better than on the faster courts where it can get targeted. But I think he's looking good. I think the only thing is he's that serve does get neutralized on the clay, so he's not getting as many free points, which he's fighting a little bit more for his service games than he usually would be. But I think he's got a shot on almost any surface. There's a great competitor.
Yeah, we
It's
could
Sorry. It's incredibly hard. Has that really heavy forehand when he wants it. He really does have a shot at hurting some of the top players.
Yeah, and we talk about how that serve can potentially get neutralized when he has to play some longer, grinded out points. That's what we kind of saw in the Toronto match. It becomes a little bit difficult for Shelton here. I did like how he was able to make some adjustments and some improvements going into Munich, so that definitely made a big difference. Let's move on to some of our dangerous seeds that we're going to talk about. All right, guys, so we're going to take a look at the rest of the seeds. So this right now is our current top 32, how we're going to see the seeds. Each of us is going to go around. We're going to go one each and then go around again one more time with one each and give you guys who we think could potentially be a spoiler here. We did talk about, Zverev's side of the draw can potentially open up if we get a Zverev upset, maybe a Novak early upset, or even a Shelton or Felix upset. So I'll start. My first seed that I'm going to be looking at is Arthur Fils. He's coming in at 9-1 right now. He would be looking anywhere from a top 20, 25, 24, 23 seed, and he's going to be a dangerous player to face. His only loss coming to Jannik Sinner, 6-2, 6-4. Obviously, a little bit of a step up for him there, but able to take out Jodar, who's having an amazing season, Musetti, who's also having a great season, Lehecka, who we know was able to make it out to the finals of Miami, and just a little bit outmatched by Sinner. But I did tell you guys, I really do feel like if they played again, that match is going to be a little bit dangerous for Sinner. I just felt like it was so much Sinner just roping to that backhand, exposing the weakness of Arthur Fils. But I do think that Fils is going to make some adjustments when he's playing Sinner. So, Panda, I'm going to go to you first. How do you see Arthur Fils maybe faring in this draw?
Yeah, I think Arthur Fils is playing some really good tennis. That forehand, insanely dangerous against any player. I think he ran out of steam a little bit against Sinner in the semifinal, but other than that, he's been playing some great tennis. So yeah, I think he's super dangerous.
The walk-on, how are you feeling about Fils?
I'd agree. I think, especially given that it's his home slam. I mean, we saw how they got behind him last year to beat Munar, I think, in 5.
Yep.
Crazy atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
The French always love their tennis. I mean, I think especially in the right matchup, I think he can get over the line against almost anyone.
Yeah, and again, that forehand is just so tough, and Sinner did such a good job of making him hit a ton of uncomfortable forehands in that match. Obviously, I think he's going to be able to get to the second week for sure. Panda, I'm going to go to you next. Give me one player that's going to be seeded that you think could potentially make a deep run in this draw.
Yeah, I have to go to one of my favorite players on tour right now, Vacherot. He's playing some really good tennis. He's reached the semifinal of Monte Carlo. He had his chances in that second set with Alcaraz, showing that he does have the game, to hurt all these top guys. I think he's very confident on the clay. Yeah, I'm excited to see what he's able to do in the French.
Yeah, and Vacherot's just a very gritty player. Like we watched him be able to fight through some of these matches. The walk-on. How are we feeling about Vacherot's chances to get through this draw?
I can't say I'm a huge fan of Vacherot. I think that he was just in the right place at the right time, and he's been riding that high ever since. I think this will be a real test. I think he does well. He plays pretty well in clay. He's proven that he can beat some quality opponents, but can he do it in best of 5? Can he do it when it really matters? I don't think so.
And let's not forget, Valentin Vacherot was down a set and a break to Juan Manuel Cerundolo, where he was able to fight back and win that match, dropping only 2 games, or I think it was only 1 game after that. And that, impressive stuff from him. That was the first round of Monte Carlo. That semifinal almost got halted from the start. But Vacherot able to fight off there and kind of started to find his game, find a little bit of confidence. The walk-on, I'm going to go to you. Give me your one player, your seed that you think is going to make a deep run.
I'm going to say Flavio Cobolli. He's been playing pretty well so far this year on the clay. He has the game that can basically hit anyone off the court. He has this nice kick serve, huge forehand. I mean, just a great shot maker, and moves really well. Finaled Munich, losing to Shelton, who's been in good form recently. A good run, decent run in Madrid, losing to Zverev, who had to get him back for his revenge match. I think I see him going pretty far here.
Yeah, and Cobolli's one of my favorite players. And guys, you've heard me talk about Cobolli last year, losing in straight sets to Zverev. I think it was the 4th round, and that maybe it was the 3rd round. That was a match that I thought could have been a potentially dangerous match for Zverev, but he was able to take care of business pretty easily against Cobolli. I don't know if they meet in the French. I don't know if it's going to be the same situation there. Panda, how do we feel about Flavio Cobolli's chances in this draw?
Yeah, I think he's playing some really good tennis. I am worried a little bit about the inconsistency. He's had some matches this year that are a little bit, uncharacteristic loss. So, I don't know if that's going to happen in the French. Although it is a slam, that 5 set does give him a bit of a buffer. If he loses 2 sets, he can come back and, work his way into the match. So I think he's got a good chance at making a little run here.
Definitely. My next player that I'm going to talk about is João Fonseca. And guys, I just feel like he has improved so much. His record on clay is only 6-5, but let's keep in mind that most of that is from the South American swing where he really didn't play that well. He has been 6-3 since then, so doing extremely well. For me, the Madrid match was a little bit tough against Jodar. That was basically his first round. Had a very obviously a tough matchup there. Got a walkover from Cilic, who got sick with the stomach bug, and has to play Jodar first round. That's a tough match to kind of break into. I felt like if Fonseca had a match under his belt, I feel like he would have been able to beat Jodar in that match. Obviously, 6-1 in that third set. Not a great showing from him. And we do kind of see some of this like back and forth here with Jodar having some very strong showings, but also some weaker showings as well. But I feel like the consistency is more present now. The walk-on, talk to me about Fonseca.
I like Fonseca. All the talent in the world. And I think he's really going to go far in his career. I think he'll probably win a couple of slams, but I don't know if he's there yet. I think when I'm watching Fonseca, I'm kind of just waiting for him to get broken. I'm waiting for him to kind of just dump a few forehands in the net or makes him pull the trigger on the wrong shot. I'm waiting for those unforced errors. And I don't think he's really proven that to me that he can be consistent over, especially a slam, a 2-week period, match after match, and really get the job done consistently. So I'm interested to see how well he does. I'm rooting for him here, but not quite sure.
Panda, how are we feeling about Fonseca's chances to make it deep in a tournament that is 3 out of 5 sets?
Yeah, I think the physicality is going to be a huge factor here. He's still super young. I feel like he hasn't had that time to put on the size that even Sinner and Alcaraz have done in their careers and really, solidified themselves a little bit better. I think a second week of a slam will be tough for him. He has the weapons, but like the walk-on said, I think we're really just waiting to see, when he puts it all together. We were talking about the other day, Federer, had that, he's knocking on the door. He really did. He had all the parts of the game that you need, but couldn't really put together. And then all of a sudden, he just started winning everything. And I think it's gonna be similar with Fonseca. I think he's gonna figure it out one day.
Yeah, I totally agree, guys. I feel like Fonseca is just like a puzzle that you just threw out on the table, and once you put it all together, you're going to see the big picture, and it's going to be amazing. I really do feel like this could be a tournament here, though, that we can see him make potentially a big run. I like the tennis that he's been playing. He's had a lot of confidence. Tough loss with Jodar. We'll see how he bounces back in Rome. Panda, give me your next player, your next seed that you are looking at here.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Lehecka here. He's been playing some really good tennis. He recently switched to a little bit of a larger frame on his racket. Giving him a little bit more forgiveness, maybe a little more power, and definitely a lot more spin. So I think it should match up well on the clay. He made a really good run in Miami, reaching the final, losing to Sinner. That's always going to be a tough match. And then now beating Musetti in his last match. He's playing some really good tennis, and I think he has the ability to beat some of these top guys. I also see a little bit of inconsistency from him as well, though. So it could be his day, it could be not. We'll see.
Yeah, Lehecka having that nice win over Musetti in Madrid. Nice 3-set win over Tabilo as well. We know Tabilo's been pretty solid on the clay this year too. Losing to Arthur Fils, and we talked about how that match was a little bit of a revenge spot there for Arthur Fils. Remember, Fils losing 6-2, 6-2 in the semifinals of Miami to Lehecka, and that was a match where Fils kind of said, I didn't really have much more to give. That was after that classic Tommy Paul match that he had where emotionally, physically, mentally, he was just drained going into that match, and he matches up pretty well with Lehecka, so it was unfortunate to see him struggle in that match, but gets his revenge here in this match. Maybe they're going to face each other again in the French, and would love to see kind of the adjustments that we see from Lehecka. The walk-on, talk to me about Lehecka's chances to make a deep run at the French Open.
I like Lehecka. Lehecka's a physical specimen, and he's gonna beat everyone that he should beat. He's pretty solid on both sides. He's gonna move well. He's gonna serve well. Can he just rise to the moment, rise to the occasion in a big match? And I see it happening.
All right, and the walk-on, you got one more pick here. Give me your seed that you think could potentially make a run in this draw.
Well, if you look at his seed, you wouldn't think that he's been doing too well, but Casper Ruud is my pick for this French Open. I mean, Casper Ruud at 25 is a nightmare in anyone's draw. He's finaled this tournament twice. He's consistently one of the best clay court players in the world year in and year out. And while he did have not quite a great loss to Alex Blockx, I see him rebounding, and I see him making a deep run in this French Open.
Yeah, Casper Ruud having that retirement in the second set against Felix that we talked about earlier, where he had a little bit of an injury that he had mentioned kind of snuck up on him. He said he wasn't feeling it in the first set, felt it a lot in the second set, and was forced to retire to close that match. Unfortunately, goes in to Madrid, has a nice run to the quarterfinals. He's favored heavily against Alexander Blockx and loses in straight sets. I mean, he has to play a little bit more consistent, in my opinion, for us to really favor him to make it out to a potential quarter, semi, or final. But he does have that forehand that has a lot of bite, tons of RPMs on that forehand. It can really kick off any clay court. He can dictate with it. So when he's on, he can challenge just about anybody on the clay. Panda, talk to me about Casper Ruud.
Yeah, I think Casper Ruud is a really dangerous player. He had that really gritty win against Tsitsipas where he was serving for the match.
Yep.
And he came back and was able to beat him in a breaker. I think mentally he's looking really good, super confident right now, playing some really good tennis. I think he kind of loses his form in the grass season and a little bit in the hard court season, and then it takes him a little bit of time to build into that clay season until he's feeling confident, because it seems like he does well at the French Open almost every year. I think that forehand is so dangerous, and I think he's got a good shot at almost anything at the French Open.
All right, guys, we're going to take a look at our dangerous floaters. Those are the unseeded players now. We're going to talk about some dangerous floaters here. The first guy that I want to bring up is probably going to be seeded here. He's at 33 right now live, so I assume that he's going to crack into the top 32, and that's Rafael Jodar. Unreal rise in the rankings for Jodar. He's 12-2 right now on the clay. Just played Jannik Sinner, 6-2, 7-6, extremely close. He's got that big serve. He's got the big forehand. The one thing that I really questioned with Jodar is that fitness. We saw him against Arthur Fils in Barcelona. The legs kind of gave out a little bit towards the end, having to absorb those body blows of Fils over and over and over again. And once he started to slow down a little bit, the power started to decrease, and Fils was really able to step on the accelerator there and take over that match, winning 6-2 in the third. But those are his two losses. One to Arthur Fils, who's having a great clay court season, and one to Jannik Sinner, who is undefeated right now on the clay. Panda, talk to me first. How do we think about Rafa Jodar? Chances to make it maybe a little bit of a deep run. What if he finds himself in that Shelton, Felix, Auger-Aliassime quarter? Could we see him getting out there maybe to a semifinal?
I think a semifinal is stretching it a little bit. He's obviously a great player. He's got really good forehand, really good backhand. Doesn't really seem to have a weakness. Even that serve is pretty good. I think the fitness is going to be really tough. He's used to playing college matches. He's not used to these best of 5 2-week tournaments. He could make a fourth round, I think, maybe take a few guys out, but those deep runs I think will wait until he's a little bit fitter.
Yeah, and one thing that I love, guys, you hear the Vamos Rafa chants now. I mean, isn't that awesome to hear that again one more time? But yeah, I can't remember what announcer it was, but they were talking about how they watched Jodar courtside with de Minaur, and they said he was hitting the ball about 5 to 6 times harder than de Minaur was, and that's insane. He was like, this guy's rally ball is just so much bigger than de Minaur's is, and yes, the fitness is definitely going to be a test. We did see him play 2 back-to-back tournaments here, making it out to the semis of Barcelona and the quarters of Madrid. So not too much there, but now we're talking a 3 to 5 set match. The walk-on, how are we feeling about Rafa Nadar's chances in this draw?
I like Rafa Jodar a lot. I think he's a little inexperienced. I mean, no fault of his own. First full year on tour. But clearly the tennis is there. And I think he's growing and maturing and improving match by match here. And I see this tournament as a breakout tournament. For sure. For Rafa Jodar coming up here.
How are you feeling about making the second week? You think you can do that?
I think that might be a tall ask, but out of any of the young guys, I think he could be the one to do it.
Okay, definitely. One of the unseeded players that I'm going to talk about here, guys, is Alexander Blockx. We just saw him lose in 2 tough sets to Zverev in Madrid, and obviously Blockx a little bit more exposed there. The backhand really didn't look that great. The movement didn't even look that great. We talked about how well he moved against Ruud, covering some of those drop shots, but Alexander Blockx is somebody that I have been talking to you guys about since the beginning of our streaming, and I think this guy, I mentioned his name. He's floating around in the Challengers, had a great year in the Challengers last year. Now he's really starting to show us kind of what he can do here, making it out to the semifinals of Madrid. What a run for him, beating Garin, Nagashima, Auger-Aliassime, Cerundolo, Casper Ruud, and then a tough loss to Zverev, who's in the finals tomorrow against Sinner. I think a lot of these seeded players, guys, are going to be afraid of drawing this guy first round. I mean, I think we're probably going to have a marquee matchup with Alexander Blockx against some of these guys. I hope he doesn't get like Sinner in the first round. That would be extremely disappointing. I want to see him kind of build his way into this draw here. And I think, if he draws, say, like a Taylor Fritz or someone of that type, maybe even a Medvedev, I think he could potentially pull a big upset at the French Open and continue to make a good run on the clay. He's 10-3 right now. Panda, how do we feel about Alexander Blockx?
Yeah, he really showed himself pretty well at Madrid. He's serving super well. That forehand is really good, and he's able to come to net and close those points out. I did think that the backhand was a little sketchy, especially against a guy like Zverev, who's hitting that really heavy, hard backhand to him. I felt that he was just hitting a little too short, and then Zverev was able to pounce on that. The movement does look a lot better than I think it has in the past. I think that's definitely something he's been working on. I can easily see him making a 3rd round, maybe even a 4th round if he gets the right seed or if he gets the right draw. Super dangerous guy, but definitely some weaknesses that are pretty obvious.
Yeah, I agree. And especially, guys, these dangerous floaters that we're talking about, obviously we haven't seen the Roland Garros draw yet. We're doing this a few weeks in advance. I think a lot of their success is going to be draw dependent. So we have to make sure we see kind of what draw they get in order to kind of judge how they're going to make it out. The walk-on, how are we feeling about Alexander Blockx making a potentially deep run in Roland Garros?
I don't see it. I don't feel that great about it, to be honest. I like Alex Blockx. I think he had a great year so far. He performed really well at Next Gen. And throughout the year, we've kind of seen the results have been here and there. He struggled a little bit in the U.S., but then coming into the clay, he's started to really come into his own. But I think it's a little early. I think if he's faced with a real tough challenge, maybe an early seed, I think he could struggle.
Yeah, and I can see that side of the argument as well. A lot of expectations now on Alexander Blockx, having made his first semifinal of Madrid. I think there's going to be some high expectations for him in the French Open, so maybe we see a potentially tight 5-set match with another guy, and he's just not able to close it out. That's what we're kind of talking about with some of these guys. We haven't seen them in these long 5-set scenarios, so we got to be able to judge from there. It's very tough for us to tell how they're going to do in some of these tighter matches going into a 5th set. Panda, I'm going to go to you next. Give me your dangerous floater.
Yeah, I got to go with my guy Zizou Bergs. I think he's a really dangerous player. I really like his personality on the court. Loves to get into it with the crowd. Loves like that showy tennis. He's a human highlight reel sometimes, but yeah, I think he's looking really good on the clay, especially. He's in a challenger final right now, playing Tabilo in the morning, so we'll see how that goes. He was able to take out Rublev in straights over Monte Carlo with some really good tennis. Really just not giving him a chance to get into the match, just ripping that forehand and closing at the net really well. He is a little inconsistent, but I think he's someone definitely to look out for. I can easily see a third, fourth round appearance here from him.
Yeah, I kind of like Zizou Bergs. I do feel like that's a little bit more draw dependent, but he is the type of guy that if he gets hot, that forehand is very big. He can step in on it, and we saw it against Rublev. He's able to do that. However, consistency has been his enemy. He hasn't been able to do it for multiple back-to-back matches or even back-to-back tournaments. He did struggle at the beginning of this year. We talked about how he was kind of in at the beginning of the clay season. He was in some must-win scenarios where we were really feeling like for him to kind of jumpstart his season, he really had to win a few matches here on the clay. But he's starting to look a lot better. So a lot of stronger play coming out from Zizou Bergs. I could definitely see if he gets the right draw, I could see him in a potentially fourth round matchup there. But once you get to that fourth round, I think you're going to play a guy that's a little bit too consistent for him, where he might struggle a little bit. The walk on, how are we feeling about Zizou Bergs?
I like Zuzu Bergs. I don't think that the clay necessarily helps him out. But like you just like Panda just mentioned, that he has a flashy game style, and he can be aggressive, really take the tennis to people. And he definitely has the potential to pull off an upset if given the opportunity.
Yeah, and I love what Panda mentioned that, he does like to kind of get the crowd into it. So, that's a big thing. The French crowd, they love their tennis. They know their tennis. They're an extremely well suited crowd for tennis. So if Zizou Bergs is able to get them into it, he might be able to have them on his side as he makes a deep run in this tournament. The walk-on, I'll go to you last but not least. Who is your favorite dangerous floater potentially in this French Open draw?
My favorite dangerous floater is Terence Atmane. And a big part of that reason is what you just mentioned, the French crowd. The French crowd love their tennis, and they really love their French tennis players. And Terence Atmane has really come into his own this past year or so, really stepping it up and finding some real success at the tour level. He's going to play well on the clay. He just went close with Arthur Fils recently, and great serve if it's on. Really tough to time with that quick toss. And big lefty forehand with the French crowd behind him. I can see him pulling off some upsets here.
Yeah, I love. Obviously, guys, we had to bring a French player in. I love that the walk-on brought up Terence Atmane, extremely dangerous player. We did see him play Fils to a very, very tough match. I believe he had match points in that match as well. Yeah, so he's right there with it. Has had some tough draws recently, but he's gonna have the crowd behind him here. He's probably going to get some of the bigger court matches as well. So he's going to feel that love when he steps out on the court in Roland Garros. Big lefty serve, loves to run around and rope that forehand. The clay gives him time to do that. I did kind of worry a little bit about Atmane getting a little bit tired there with the legs, kind of having to run around so much to protect that backhand. Panda, how are we feeling about Terence Atmane's chances in the French Open?
Yeah, I really like Terence Atmane. He's got a huge forehand, really big serve. That forehand's got some really good action on it as well. He can pull people off the court with it. He can rip it line. He can really do a lot of good things. I do like the variety of that shovel backhand, a little bit flatter with that high, heavy forehand. Gives the opponent a different look at the ball, which I think is really good. He definitely has the game to beat a lot of the guys in the draw, so he could be seen in a third, fourth round. I also see, he's not that experienced on this kind of stage. I can also see him losing first round to somebody in the top 80, but you never know. We'll see.
Yeah, and it's always tough to gauge. Obviously it's going to be the home crowd, but what comes with that is the nerves as well. How is he going to play there? I think he loves to play to the crowd. I think he's going to loosen him up. But yeah, that's a great pick there from the walk-on. That's all we have for you now, guys. Post your picks in the comments. We'd love to hear from you who you think is going to win this draw, maybe who you think are some dangerous seeds, and then obviously some dangerous floaters, some Cinderellas that you think might be able to make it out. I think we're going to have a little bit of a wide open draw, maybe in one quarter, so that could potentially be some fun there to see a guy come out for their maybe first quarterfinal, semifinal match, or maybe a new finalist in the French Open. But let me know what you guys think. Post your picks in the comments. And as always, guys, thanks again for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share your picks in the comments. Share the video. We will be back with videos daily, going through our matchups, going through our picks. So excited for the French Open to start. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in the next video.